Well, I'm going to begin with something that I read in Auto Week. Lyn St. James, it was written, has had the kind of career most racers would be jealous of. In a decades long path, she raced at every major endurance sports car event in the world, qualified for the Indianapolis 500 7 times, and set impressive speed records. She didn't come from a racing family or start karting as a toddler. She just had the sheer force of will and determination to push herself into a sport largely devoid of women. Now she's an automotive Hall of Famer. Congratulations, Lyn.
Thank you very much. Still hasn't sunk in yet, but thank you so much. Just hearing that, kind of also puts me in perspective of just how amazing it is.
When you think about some of those things that Auto Week wrote, and we go to endurance racing, we go to the obviously Indianapolis, and we go to the fact that you didn't come from a racing family and actually started when you were 27. You had a Ford Pinto. You drove to work as a secretary and a piano teacher. It's kind of crazy to think about where we sit today, right, Lyn?
Yeah, but think about, I grew up at a different time. I grew up in the 60s, 50s and 60s, and then sort of came into my adulthood, I guess you'd say, more in the 70s. And so I was doing what society expected women to do. But I was incomplete. I knew that there was something missing. I used to drive my first husband crazy, trying to figure that out. And in most cases, it probably would be for most women to have children, to have children and have a family. But that wasn't my dream or my passion. And actually it wasn't his either. And so we built a business together, and then we went to the races as fans together. And then I saw real people drove race cars. When I went to the Indy 500, those are superhumans. You see, Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt, those are not real people.
Yes.
and so that didn't click. The sport clicked, but not the activity and seeing me in that role. And so then, through going to 24 hours of Daytona and the 12 hours of Sebring, and yes, there were the superhumans were there too, but so were some just human beings. And then of course finding out about Sports Car Club of America. So, I just took this path of pursue something that's interesting, and then realizing that maybe there was a role for me in that. And once I did, I've never looked back. But I think about the 70s, when I saw the Ruth Ginsburg film and documentary, and there was a lot about what was going on in the 60s and 70s. And then I thought, well, that's when I was growing up. I don't quite remember that was the way it was, because when you're in it, when you're like a kid, you don't always see things. I have this theory that decades make a difference, and it's not only the decades in the timing, it's how old you are when it's happening, because you process information differently. And so when I reflected back on those 2 decades, particularly the 60s and 70s, it looked different than what I thought it was at the time. And so I thought women were crazy, to be honest, that they were out there burning the bras and doing crazy, things. And look, then of course I meet Billie Jean King, and I kind of had a different experience about what women, when I saw her beat Bobby Riggs on television. I was a tennis player, and I knew I was never going to be a pro or anything, and I remember saying to myself, if she can do that, then I should be able to get behind the wheel of a race car, even if it's a Pinto. It just sort of set a tone, of not just an image, but I think a tone of kind of stepping into something that maybe would be not considered traditional.